Hello everyone, my name is Fabian Fröse. I'm a professor and editor of a journal. In fact, I've been editor for several journals. And as a journal editor, I receive many submissions. For my main journal, where I'm editor-in-chief of Asian Business Management, we receive every year more than 700 submissions. As an editor, my wish and also my role is to publish articles. So my dear wish is to publish papers. Unfortunately, we can't publish all submissions. That's a pity. We have to run these submissions through a review process. At the very beginning of this review process, we screen our articles and we may desk reject these papers. So in this video, I will talk a little bit more about what is a desk review and in particular some advice for you how you can survive and succeed in this review process. Here I have an overview of the review process in a very simplified form. You can see the manuscript at the very beginning. It arrives at the desk of the journal, and then we will perform an initial desk review. Then the manuscript might be forwarded to the handling editor, it will be sent out for review, and so forth. In this video, we will focus on the initial desk review. Here, close up, in the previous figure you only saw it was one box. Here I've broken down the box into multiple boxes to explain you the process of the initial desk review. Whenever you submit a paper to a journal, it arrives, usually these days, it's via online submission system. You click a button, submit, and then your manuscript is being forwarded to the publishing company. And the publishing company, we also have people and computer systems, and when the submission arrives, the first person who will see then your manuscript is an editorial assistant who is usually employed by the publishing company. He or she will very briefly screen the manuscript, maybe check for some formalities, but then we'll forward to the reviewing editor. The reviewing editor will then review the manuscript, will scan it, and then provide a recommendation. And then the recommendation goes to the editor-in-chief, to me. I receive then the manuscript. I will see also the recommendation of the reviewer, and then I will make my first decision. Option one would be I see potential in the manuscript, and then I will forward this manuscript to the handling editor. There are different handling editors. Or alternatively, at this stage already, reviewing editor recommends desk reject. I will check and also think, it lacks certain dimensions, has certain weaknesses, so sadly we would reject it at this stage and will not send it out to peer review. That's a pity. We would like to send out more. Unfortunately, we're not able to do so. To give you some ideas why we're not able to do so. As I mentioned at the beginning, we receive maybe 700 or 800 submissions every year. Every day, 2 papers. Imagine now, I would then send out each manuscript to the review process. I would need to find editors, handling editors. I or they would need to find reviewers. We would need at least 2 to 3 reviewers per paper. That means we would need many reviewers, 1,500 and so forth. And all these people, these editors, these reviewers, they all do voluntary jobs. Maybe you also review yourself. How long does it take you to perform one review of an article? Maybe 2 hours, maybe 10 hours, maybe 2 days even. It's a lot of time investment. And because of this system, we cannot send all manuscripts to review process because it's so much work for so many people involved. Also on a personal level, if I ask reviewers, quite often they are my friends and they have to do a voluntary job for many hours. If I would ask every year 1,500 times my friends, please, can you review this paper? I would end up with no friends. That's very sad, and the same situation happens to the other editors. Even though it would be ideal to send out all manuscripts to the review process, unfortunately that is not possible due to feasibility reasons. So let us have a look at the homepage of Asian Business and Management to get an example. Who are the people behind? You already know me, Fabian, I'm the editor-in-chief. Then we have a list of different associate editors. These are usually the handling editors who receive then the manuscript and would assign reviewers. Then we have reviewing editors. These are the people who will review the manuscripts at the very beginning. Editorial review board people are people who often review for our manuscript. In addition, we also invite other people to review for Asian Business and Management. The experience of many years of being an editor, reviewing editor and so forth, and also seeing so many papers every year, we can find some commonalities why certain articles will not be sent out for the review process, but instead will be desk rejected. I wrote down here 5 key points. You can read also more details in one of my editorials. I think you can see it at the bottom, the reference. There you can hear. Here I would like to talk about it. And also we added 1/5 aspect which has come up more often. It's concerning ethical issues. So you can see here these 5 points: mismatch with journal, theoretical contribution, writing methods and ethical issues. These are among the key reasons why some manuscripts are being desk rejected. First one, talking about mismatch with journal. We have so many journals, it's almost endless. Sadly, we receive as editors from time to time, or sometimes even more often, manuscripts that have nothing to do with the journal, nothing to do with the papers journal usually publishes. Topic is very different. Take the example of International Journal of Human Resource Management. It's a journal about human resource management, pretty obvious. However, we still sometimes receive finance articles. Finance and HRM are so different. That makes no point to submit such an article to a finance journal. And Asian Business Management publishes research on Asia, Asian Business Management. Yet sometimes we receive submissions that are about African business, not related to the journal. There's a clear mismatch. These mistakes can be easily avoided. You can check the homepage, go to the target journal, or maybe you even grab a copy of the original journal, look into the mission statements at the beginning or at the end of a journal, and then you will see. And also what helps if you read recent articles. Journals sometimes also go through different transitions. What was common 10 years ago might not be the standard anymore now, so only look into recent articles. To give you some examples. All right, then let us have a look at Asian Business Management, where we find the coverage and whether there's a topic match. Here we go to the homepage. We can see Asian Business Management. Here we see some details, and here we see some general information. First journal on Asian Business Management provides thought-provoking insight into Asian business management, multidisciplinary, and open to a wide array of methodological approaches. For Asian Business Management, here a clear statement is an academic management business journal with a focus on Asia. The journal covers topics in the areas of corporate governance, human resource management, marketing, organization behavior, organization theory, strategy, technology management, and related areas. It does not include finance and some other topics. It's open to different methodological approaches, including quantitative, qualitative, mixed methods, conceptual work, and so forth. It would be very important to find the right journal. You can look through the different mission statements and so forth, and then modify your manuscript. Or you can also submit to a different journal. Second, talking about theoretical contribution. Most journals in management area, they put heavy emphasis on the contribution or particular theory contribution. In the desk review, the reviewing editor and me and also the handling editor will not read into all the details, because we only scan and try to filter out the good from the not so good papers, from the poor papers. And one aspect would be looking at theory. And we would look into your manuscript. Do you mention theory? Do you explain what kind of theory you're talking about? how do you make contribution to literature and so forth. And also when quickly reading through your manuscript, and if it's a quantitative paper based on hypothesis, it would be also important that your hypotheses are theory driven. Not just it's a mere combination of 7, 8 different hypotheses that are not related to any theory, only to one, or theory 1, hypothesis 2, another theory, hypothesis 3, another theory, and so forth, which would be called very fragmented and lacking theory. What would be also important then to clarify your theoretical contribution. Again, to survive the desk review, that's fairly easy. Now I give you some tip how to do that. Let's have a look. Now, let us have a look at an example article, how to highlight your contributions. Here, this one is a recent article of mine published together with one of my former students, who is now a professor in Nuremberg, and another colleague and friend. To highlight your contributions, it would help if you make it very obvious. I'm not an English teacher, but let me point you into some directions. Here in the introduction, towards the end of the introduction, you would specifically state your contributions. And now here I've highlighted some text passage. We seek to contribute to research on international assignment, blah, blah, and so forth in 3 ways. So we make it very explicit. We contribute. This study intends to contribute, blah, blah, and so forth. And then in 3 ways. Again, here very explicit. First, second, third, and then I explain a little bit. Already in the introduction, I explicitly state what kind of contributions we can expect from this paper. Of course, then there's a different section of this manuscript where I will provide more details about the contributions. And that would happen after I've told the whole story, then I go into the discussion, and then I have a dedicated section on theoretical implications. And then here I talk about the contributions, and then you can see again, now I'm not an English teacher, but you'll find the same words. We further contribute, blah, 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 blah. And then how we extend literature and then make it very obvious. So I have, yes, you can see, 1, 2 pages, dedicated subsections on theoretical contributions where I go a little more in detail. I think this example shows you how I very explicitly integrate and highlight my contributions in the introduction and then again in the discussion section. Third, writing. That's not that difficult, but yet many manuscripts fail in that regard. For quantitative papers, for instance, we have a standard structure. We would expect all submissions also to follow that structure. It would be different if you write a conceptual or qualitative papers. You have lots of freedom how to design, how to write, how to structure your paper. For quantitative papers, we have something like a boilerplate. It's not very difficult, most people know that, and you have to follow that. Here, to give you an overview, what is the typical structure of a quantitative paper? 5 parts. Give or take, you could add or drop some or modify, but still these are probably the typical 5 parts of a quantitative paper. You start with an introduction, then follows the theory, also review literature, develop your hypotheses and so forth. Third would be then the methods. It could be broken down further into sample procedures, measures, and statistical analysis. Statistical analysis would be very important. If you have a very complicated or more advanced statistical analysis, you would explain it. If you do very simple statistics such as regressions, t-tests and so forth, you don't need to explain it in the methods section. If you use secondary data, maybe you don't call it sample procedures, maybe you call it data, and because you don't really have data collection procedures. Fourth would be results, where you test your hypothesis, and fifth, discussion, which can be further broken down into a brief overview, and then maybe theoretical, practical implications and limitations and future research directions. In more general, in a desk review, we would add language and spelling. Imagine if we send out a manuscript to the review process, we would asked some people, please review this paper, and they would spend maybe 1 day, 20 hours or so on your manuscript to review it. We would also expect from you as an author, I know you spend so much time, months, weeks, and I don't know, on your manuscript, but it's sometimes puzzling to me that I receive a manuscript, it's full of typographical and grammatical mistakes, it's poorly written. Anyone could easily spot these mistakes, you just use the word function and so forth. And that is extremely disappointing. Why did this author did not put this minimum effort and courtesy into proofreading and making the language fine? And if you're not a native speaker, myself also, you can hear that I'm not an English native speaker, I would usually hire a proofreader or a professional copy editor who will then edit my text, and then only after my manuscript has been proofread I will submit it to a journal. Then we have also style guideline. Now this is a little annoying, but each journal has a different style guide. Some have more similar, some use standard ones such as APA and so forth. It would be also here general courtesy to follow these style guidelines. Let's take another example from Asian business and management. Where do I find style guide informations? Here, probably in this section for authors. And there you find in detail presentation and formatting. You'll find details, 7 to 10,000 words, double space, 10 points, and so forth. All the details, how a paper should be formatted for Asian business management. And it's customary expectation that manuscripts abide to this style guide. If you make a minor mistake, not a big deal. But if it's completely differently formatted, different type of abstract and so forth, this would be very annoying to editors and reviewers. Usually, this only for that reason we will not typically desk reject papers. But very often we have a manuscript suffers from several of these problems in terms of methods are questionable, contribution not clear, and then to top it all up, completely different formatting. And then also as an editor or as a reviewing editor, we don't have much patience anymore. And then sadly, we would desk reject the manuscript. That's a very easy fix. Just look at here the typical journal style guides, and that you can do. It may take a few hours, but I think that's time worth spent and showing also your commitment, your interest in really publishing in that specific journal. Talking about methods. In a desk review, we would not look into all the details of your methodology. But we still screen your methods, and our reviewing editors, me and the other handling editors, they have quite some methodological knowledge. But they might not be expert, but still they will look, what kind of methods did you apply? Does it make sense? If you did quantitative or qualitative, if you do quantitative, maybe you also look into sample size, certain sample size minimum expectations we would have. We might also look at other methodological issues, level issues. Maybe you're interested into looking at individuals, but then you measure the individual perceptions at organization level, measured by the HR manager and so forth. It doesn't make sense. If we spot any major methodological mistake, most likely your manuscript will be desk rejected. For the fine-tuning of the methods, the reviewers are there, and they will try then to help you improve your methods if necessary. In recent years, unfortunately, more and more we were facing also ethical challenges with our submissions. Here are some of the main points. One would be plagiarism. In fact, we will shortly issue also a statement on our homepage how to deal with that. That means some authors, they copy-paste part of their own work or other work, and then they publish again using other or own previously published sources. That is of course not acceptable. We have a computer program that automatically screens all submissions for plagiarism. And these manuscripts will be automatically by default desk rejected. What also happens, sadly, sometimes multiple submissions. Some authors, they submit the same manuscript to 1, 2, 3, maybe different journals at the same time. That is of course not possible. And the thing is, people get caught, because same reviewers, same editors, and then they inform each other, and then it comes out, and then it's a big scandal almost. So don't do that. And sometimes also with very questionable data, because how the data was being obtained or how it being used or reused, something is strange, and then we also would desk reject those kind of issues. All right, coming now to the recommendations. What can be done, or what should be done to avoid desk reject and to successfully place your later on your manuscript into journals. The first one, method issues. Some of the things cannot be remedied later on. It's important to carefully design your study, and I have different videos on how you could do that. Then another point would be here, before you submit, carefully read the editorials, check out the journal homepage, and maybe also read some recent articles. That will help you determine whether there's a fit between your submission, your manuscript, and the journal. And then maybe you modify, or if it's too far off, then you try to find a better journal that is more closely related to your study. I would also very much recommend you, here the next point I haven't talked much about before, but really polish the title, abstract, and the introduction. These are the first things the editor, the reviewing editors, reviewers, and the reader will read first. If you have a grammatical mistake in the title, then you can already imagine first impression count. First impression would be terrible, and so forth. So that should be really, I would say, perfect. Try to make it perfect. What I would also recommend you write a cover letter to the editor. Use that. I don't need a long letter, but still maybe 1 page or less than a page, crisp. That would help to direct, and particularly if you have any kind of problems, maybe you have part of the data used somewhere else, so state it up front. And if you state it up front, then we as editors, we know, and then we would send it out to desk review. Otherwise, we might become very suspicious. Why this and that? And then you can clear it up front. If you haven't published any papers yet, or not much, and you would like to publish in these major international journals, I would very much recommend you to team up with some experienced researchers, or at least get feedback from them. Okay, I think that was an overview of how to survive the desk review. I hope my video is helpful for you to survive the desk review. Thank you.